My friends, it's official. Myrnohrad is now fully encircled. What a disaster! One that could have been completely prevented. This is the first complete encirclement of a Ukrainian city since the Battle of Mariupol. And you know what? I looked through Ukrainian media to learn more about what's going on, and it seems they're in complete denial. You know what? Even the Institute of the Study of War cannot cope anymore. Sky News even reported fierce battle for frontline towns where Ukraine's soldiers are surrounded. The reason I'm saying this is a military disaster is that some reports claim that up to 2,000 Ukrainian soldiers are now trapped in Myrnohrad. Do you understand? This is free XP for the Russians. This is what Myrnohrad looks like at the moment. This is where hundreds upon hundreds of Ukrainian troops are hiding in scattered basements or amid the ruins of this shattered town. Remember the nightmare scenario I told you about? Well, this is now. I seriously don't understand why the general staff of the AFU willingly sacrificed an entire brigade worth of troops. I just don't get it. Blad, stop whining. That's only 4 days of mobilization. I'll just tell the white vans to catch more guys on Monday.
Слава Україні!
But I think there's one rational reason that could explain why Ukraine is doing this, but we'll cover that at the end of the video. In the meantime, Ukraine urgently needs something that could regenerate its military. Dump this brown powder in your coffee and become 27% harder to kill. This is Black Forest high flavanol cocoa powder. And here's what's insane. A study with 21,000 people just showed that this might reduce a heart attack by 27%. Cocoa flavanols keep your arteries flexible. In regular chocolate, 90% of the flavanols get destroyed during processing. It's like the difference between putting water in your gas tank versus high octane. I'm going to show you a video where Dr. Eric Berg, one of the most watched health educators on YouTube, is talking about the health benefits of cocoa.
There's some seriously amazing benefits for the heart. Decreased blood pressure because you're getting increased nitric oxide, which actually helps the smooth muscle of the arteries. Now, the blood pressure effect can also happen due to the high levels of magnesium. It's also loaded with iron and potassium and copper and phosphorus and zinc. Number 2, it can increase your HDL, decrease your LDL, especially the oxidized LDL. Number 3, major studies showing the decrease in risk of heart disease. Okay, this is the big one right here. Decreasing endothelial dysfunction. This is where heart disease starts. It's the inside of the layer of the artery, specifically the coronary, that starts to become damaged, and then the cholesterol comes and the calcium comes and builds a plaquing and a clot. And so these antioxidants protect the inside layer of the artery.
This is exactly why I switched to Black Forest high flavanol cocoa. It's not candy, it's performance fuel. Every scoop delivers the same active compounds Harvard researchers linked to cardiovascular support, better blood flow, and even sharper focus. Think of it like your insurance policy. Inside-out protection for your heart, brain, and stamina. I've been putting this in my coffee at 7 a.m. every morning. It's literally the first thing I put in my body. I'm telling you, within 10 minutes, I'm wide awake, ready to go and pump out videos. It hits different than just your regular cup. If you're looking for that insurance policy to keep that blood flowing and ticker pumping, and you want to kick your coffee up a notch, this is what you're looking for. And here's the bottom line. Black Forest just went live with their biggest deal of the year. Buy one, get one free. Across the entire store. It's live right now, but it ends in 48 hours. And once it's gone, it's gone. Hit the link in the description or pinned comment. Grab the amazing Black Forest deal while it lasts. And take control of your health before someone else does it for you. So let's talk about this military disaster unfolding in Myrnohrad. Alright, to fully understand the current situation, we have to take a step back. This was the frontline situation when we last left off on the 14th of November. Despite the cope by the mainstream media, Pokrovsk was fully under Russian control. That's also when Russian drone pilots were completing the mop-up of the last enemy pockets on the outskirts of the town. Remained only this 2-kilometer gap before Myrnohrad was officially encircled. In theory, there was only this road between Myrnohrad and Hrishine that acted as the lifeline for the Myrnohrad garrison. In reality, that road had been under fire control of the enemy for many weeks now. Here we can see a Russian fiber optics drone flying over these fields, and it recorded a total of 50 Ukrainian vehicles destroyed or abandoned. Oh, you thought I was done? This other supply road across the countryside also got hammered hard. In this Russian drone footage, we can count 27 Ukrainian vehicles kaput. So just on these two axes alone, we can count 77 Ukrainian vehicles left behind. And many Russian analysts believe the army is in no rush in closing this cauldron. They're forcing Ukraine to sacrifice more and more units to hold this hopeless position. The Russians don't have to do anything, they just sit there and camp. And their kill streak is just rising. 24 hours later, Ukrainian forces abandoned all their positions at the very bottom of the cauldron. All their units were now slowly folding back towards Myrnohrad. Yet, what I found strange is how by the 16th of November, Ukrainian journalists Yuri Butusov and Tyaplenko completely stopped mentioning Myrnohrad in their reports. This is part of the complete denial of Ukrainian society that I told you about in the introduction. As if everything was okay. Blah, nope, everything is fine. In reality, Russian forces started pushing out of Pokrovsk. We know this because Ukrainian drones started targeting enemy infantry units right here on the map. However, it was actually much worse than that, because some Russian patrols were suddenly spotted 2.5 kilometers beyond Pokrovsk. This means this supply road was now being physically cut off. This Russian push northwards continued for the next 48 hours. Drone operators of Ukraine's 35th Marine Brigade kept launching one FPV drone after another in an attempt to stop this tidal wave. But then came another crisis for our beloved Ukrainskaya Armia. Russian units were now breaking out from the northeastern corner of Pokrovsk through the settlement of Rivne towards Myrnohrad. In response, Ukrainian aviation carried an airstrike and destroyed this two-story building. Yes, this definitely completely halted the Russian offensive. Yeah. We don't even know if the building was actually occupied by Russian troops at the time of the airstrike. You know it's bad when even David Axe is questioning what's happening. On his new blog, he wrote, Ukrainian airstrikes may only delay the inevitable. By the 20th of November, Russian elements of the 2nd Commandarm's army started settling in Pokrovsk. In this first-person shooter perspective, we see 6 Russian soldiers walking around what's left of the high-rise district south of the town. The benefit of such urban areas is that you can house a large number of troops, but also camouflage all your vehicles in warehouses, garages. In this Ukrainian footage, we see an FPV drone strike against a Russian tank camouflaged in between some trees. What's interesting is how the Ukrainians explained how the strike involved 2 FPV drones guided by a bomber drone and a reconnaissance drone. That's 4 UAVs, and unlike what we could think, FPV drones don't fly at random. They're actually one-way weapons, so they need to be guided straight to their target. And what's interesting is that we learned that these bomber drones play a dual purpose. They can strike enemy forces, but they can also provide reconnaissance. What's more, this drone strike took place only 700 meters away from where the video of the Russians walking around the high-rise district was recorded. And check this out, sometime later, it's drones from Ukraine's 68th Yega Brigade that found another Russian armored vehicle north of Pokrovsk. This confirms what I told you in my previous video. The Russian army is turning Pokrovsk into a logistics hub for the next offensive. Right now, they're just concentrating their forces. And notice how we didn't see any videos of Russian tanks or BMPs driving into Pokrovsk. This is pure maskerovka. So we were provided with this video of this Russian convoy driving through the fog, motorcycles, Soviet-era vehicles, jeeps. But in reality, at the same time, you had entire columns of armored vehicles that got into the city. And once again, no footage of all this. So we can only guess as to how many armored vehicles are in Pokrovsk right now. You know what? With such clues, it's not crazy to think that we could expect a mechanized assault in the near future, perhaps against Hryshine or even to flank Rodinske. But then came another disaster. Russian storm detachments broke through along this tree line, advanced 1,000 meters towards Myrnohrad, and took position inside these warehouses. This is bad. This is really bad. Remember what I told you in my last video. As you can observe, if Russian forces secure this area, it's GG. Well played. It's over. Any idea of a Ukrainian withdrawal out of the Myrnohrad pocket is gone. That was the strategic position to capture. And the tree line along this rail embankment leads directly into Myrnohrad as well. And this also answers the question I had in the previous video. And number 3, order the garrison to stand its ground and fight until the end. Option 3 is literally what we're witnessing right now. because as of now, no mass withdrawal has been reported, no large-scale relief attempt either. The Myrnohrad garrison was essentially told to stand and fight. It's actually very similar to the German Festung doctrine of World War II, when Germany lost the initiative and had depleted the bulk of its mobile reserves. Strategically important cities were ordered to be held at all costs, often by low-quality second- or third-rate troops that could be sacrificed and left behind. But like I told you, there's another reason that could explain all this, but it's gonna be at the end of the video. Oh yeah, there was this interesting video that was released on the 20th of November. On the eastern side of Myrnohrad, 2 Russian soldiers were KIA by Ukrainian machine gun fire. Not only that, reportedly it was troops from Ukraine's 3rd Battalion of the 38th Myrn Brigade. So now we get more clues as to what Ukrainian units are defending this fortress city. Option 1, it's possible the AFU fortified Myrnohrad stocked up on supplies with good Marine units prepared to fight until the end. Essentially the Battle of Mariupol. Option 2, the general staff of the AFU assessed it's not worth sacrificing elite assault units to rescue entire battalions of low-quality mobilized personnel. Might as well use them to slow down the Russians. And from the perspective of General Syrski, that's only 1 week of mobilization. You're not gonna endanger your entire front line to save them. Meanwhile, the remaining Ukrainian positions south of the city were getting fabbed into oblivion. But now you're quite familiar with my autistic side. But I did some digging and the airstrike targeted this area only a couple blocks away from where that large surrender of Ukrainian troops took place. This also means it's very possible this video is also a couple days old. Or it could mean that Russian troops actually struggled to push up along Soborna Street towards the city center. There was also that video from that same sector, where 3 Ukrainian soldiers surrendered after receiving leaflets. The next day, on the 21st of November, the Ukrainian command attempted to push through the Road of Death in order to reach Myrnohrad. However, this area was completely blockaded and under fire control of the Russian elite Rubicon drone operators.
Fire all the drones now!
In this footage, we see a Ukrainian BVS-10 that was hit by a first drone, then by a second one, a third, and at last a 4th one. 24 hours later, according to Deep State UA, the entire eastern edge of Myrnohrad had fallen into Russian hands. Meanwhile, Russia's 2nd Command Arms Army was also rapidly strengthening its positions inside Pokrovsk. That's when the armed forces of Ukraine used some of their long-range FP2 drones. These have a range of up to 200 kilometers and can carry between 100 and 105 kilograms of explosives. Those are like mini FAB glide bombs. We have to admit, Ukraine made some incredible achievements in drone warfare. On the 23rd, some Russian Telegram posts mentioned that, at night, servicemen of the 38th and 101st Brigades of the Armed Forces of Ukraine surrendered. We already knew about the presence of Ukraine's 38th Marine Brigade in a cauldron, but the 151st? I don't know about that. Because when I check on this deployment map, the 101st Mechanized Brigade is deployed all the way north in Kupiansk. Unless we can find a way to cross-reference this information, it's most likely low-quality information and it's probably false. So naturally, we can question the second part of the post that says the units remaining in the encirclement are practically not offering resistance. Okay, but in that case, why is it taking so long? Anyway, by 6 p.m. on the 23rd of November, this is approximately what the Myrnohrad pocket looked like. The bottom part of the cauldron shrunk once more, but it's to the north that we can see how the 2 Russian tips were almost touching. The Ukrainians fought very hard to prevent this from happening. But it seems that in the last few days, apart from small raids, the general staff of the AFU stopped counterattacking in this sector.
All hope is failing, my lord!
The next day we learned interesting things from Telegram posts published by Ukraine's 79th Air Assault Brigade. Talked today with the guys who are planning to go help in Myrnohrad. They say the last few days have been a one-way trip. I mean, just a couple hours before that post, we got footage of another Ukrainian vehicle that got knocked out on the Road of Death. Any Ukrainian vehicle trying to push through that blockade is getting swarmed by enemy drones. And if by luck they manage to reach Myrnohrad, there's no way they can get back. And then the post says that due to Russian airstrikes and artillery shelling, 2 companies have been lost in a week. Only a platoon had returned. It's a bit cryptic, but from my understanding, a fraction of the garrison managed to slip out of the encirclement. But for the others, apparently casualties are extremely high. And there's no way to evacuate all the wounded. Right after, in another post, the 79th reported, "This is effed up. Just spoke with brothers from the evacuation group. They're working on the Pokrovsk direction. Friendly fire, once again. 5 KIA, 4 wounded. But while there was confusion, the Russians already finished them off. Total -9 for the trip. Who will answer for this?" Oh my. What a disaster. As you can see, it's total chaos. 9 fatalities for what? There's so many units involved that there's very little coordination and communication between them. Why should the Russians close off the encirclement? They're fighting the campaign on easy mode. They're just picking off the enemies like that, one after the other. And again, these posts come from Ukrainian sources. Let's be honest, the situation for the Myrnohrad garrison is completely hopeless. With that being said, I was surprised to learn that this garrison still operated some armored vehicles. Maybe they're not that powerless after all. In this video posted by Rubicon, we see Russian drones swarm a Mada 1A3 infantry fighting vehicle. According to my research, Germany delivered about 140 Mada IFVs to Ukraine. And these are the 5 units that operated them as of 2025. The one that interests us is the 25th Airborne Brigade, which is indeed deployed in the Pokrovsk direction. If we put all the pieces of the puzzle together, we can guess that the Myrnohrad garrison is composed of a patchwork of various units, of which a majority of elements of the 38th Marine Brigade, but also the 79th Air Assault Brigade and the 25th Airborne Brigade as well. On paper, these are all elite units with higher standards of selection. But it's hard to say these days. These brigades could very well be filled with mobilized personnel. On the 24th of November, SCA published another video of a raid of some of its units deep inside Pokrovsk. Just like in the previous days, Scala rifle teams advanced along these axes and regrouped at the city center. We know this because a 3-man Ukrainian fire team was seen pushing past the Pokrovsk sign on the northwestern edge of the city. It's possible that Scala established a forward operating base somewhere in that sector. But again, we're talking about 6 to 10 soldiers. This is far from the big counterattack that many talked about on Twitter. To me, there's only 2 explanations. Number 1, this video is multiple days old. And number 2, Scala simply benefits from gaps in the Russian line, which allowed them to launch these infiltration missions. But there's no real Ukrainian area of control in Pokrovsk. So to me, it looks like yet another PR stunt to delay as long as possible the news to the Ukrainian public that Pokrovsk has fallen. Because the very next day, Russian troops recorded this video from the center of Pokrovsk to show that Ukrainian troops were nowhere to be seen. By the 25th of November, Russian patrols of the 2nd Command Arms Army pushed north of Rivne and linked up with friendly forces coming from Radinsky. All the daily mappers I talked to report that this intersection on the road of death is under Russian control. The 2 tips had touched. Myrnohrad was now officially encircled. This is the first complete Russian encirclement since the Battle of Mariupol. Despite the hopeless situation, Ukraine's 38th Marine Brigade captured a Russian 4-man sabotage group right at the center of Myrnohrad. I mean, at this rate, it's only a matter of time before they get released. The original post by Ukraine's 7th Corps also declared some interesting things about this event. 3 of the detainees are former prisoners who were released from prison thanks to signing military contracts. According to the Russians, before the assault, they lived for 4 days in the basement of a building in a neighboring settlement. We could be looking at a refurbished Storm Z type of unit. The type of units the Russian command sees no problem in sacrificing. Of course, to pay their debt to the motherland. At the same time, the Russian 51st Army dropped leaflets calling to surrender in this area of Myrnohrad, but also south of the town, close to where the big platoon surrendered. So from a tactical perspective, we can guess that pushing along this road is very difficult for the Russians. Now, the reality is that nobody really knows how many Ukrainian troops are still trapped in Myrnohrad. Some sources claim up to 2,000. It's huge, but it could be possible. Remember, it's 2,500 Ukrainian soldiers that surrendered at Azovstal in Mariupol. So yeah, a garrison of 2,000 Ukrainian troops in Myrnohrad could be legit. But then we don't know how many supplies they have left. So many questions. By the 26th of November, reports indicated that the entire eastern part of Myrnohrad was now under Russian control, including the very strategic high-rise district, and that at the same time, foreign elements were already pushing from the tree line into the western part of town. Now in conclusion, some Russian analysts argue that Moscow is deliberately slowing down the final storming of Myrnohrad in order to achieve two objectives. Number one, force Ukraine to keep pouring reserves into a hopeless defense, aka bleeding the AFU dry. And number two, create a large pocket or semi-encirclement that can later be used as a simple bargaining chip in a possible ceasefire or peace talks. They say this because this is more or less what happened during the Battle of Debaltseve in January and February 2015 during the Minsk II ceasefire agreement. Them bringing Debaltseve made me remember something very important. General Syrski was directly involved in this Battle of Debaltseve, and the chaotic withdrawal that followed and that caused hundreds upon hundreds of casualties. It was a real turkey shoot. And for what? So maybe, just maybe, Syrski thought that since Ukrainian forces would suffer extremely high casualties during a mass withdrawal anyway, might as well order them to stand and fight. Because he remembers the Battle of Debaltseve. This could allow them to pin down the Russians in Myrnohrad, so Ukraine gains more time to rebuild a new defensive line north of Pokrovsk. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Remember to check out Black Force supplements. Let me know in the comment section what you thought of my analysis. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, make sure to check out my Patreon or PayPal. The links are in the description below.